help us to focus now, to listen, and to notice that you are already here, and that you are just in you, and that we can support each other so that you can start a transformation.
Streams of abundance flow. Blessed be your name. The video clip that we shared just a moment ago reminds one of Galatians 6 verse 2. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. 12 years. 12 years is a long time. It is especially a long time to be unwell. 12 years is the age of my daughter, somewhere between childhood and womanhood. 12 years can be a lifetime of memories. It can represent the hopes and aspirations of a family. It can speak to a future dreamed of and of a past lost. 12 years that connect a young girl on the brink of womanhood and a woman struggling with the loss of that womanhood. As we journey with Jesus in the Gospel of Luke, we find ourselves in that crowd. We are in the thick of a throng, anxious to see Jesus do something remarkable, keen to be the witnesses of something extraordinary, to be part of something profound. It is a press crushing in around us. And in the middle of that press of people, it is tempting to think that this is the center of being. In these moments, what unfolds is done for us. It is all for our benefit. And yet, as the story unfolds, we discover that actually we are not privileged with ringside seats, but rather we are something of an obstruction, a hindrance. We are not among the pressed. On the contrary, we are part of the press. But to whom are we an obstruction? For whom are we in the way? How is it that once again the crowd not only surrounds in awe, but separates in ignorance? How can it be that we become the ones who block the very thing that we are there to witness? Why would we get in the way of the extraordinary and the profound, when all we want is to see with our own eyes the extraordinary and the profound? Perhaps we couldn't know it, but 12 years of life are on the line today. 2 women, one younger, one older, hover between life and death while we press around Jesus to see, to hear, to witness. Imperceptible to us, 2 people are making their way toward Jesus, and to reach him they must get through our throng. Jairus, a ruler of the synagogue, has muscle to help him. He is making his way by presence, by position, by power. But he is desperate. Time is not on his side. The life of his daughter hangs in the balance. Likely she has been unwell for longer than just a few hours. Quite possibly, if they ever might have spoken, Jairus would have found some resonance with the woman also making her way through the crowd, and her struggle to find a medical cure through the doctors of her time. And that woman, this woman, on the other hand, has nothing or no one to help her make her way through the crowd, through the press, through the throng. She has no power, position, or presence. Instead, she is hindered by illness, hamstrung by stigma, and restrained by enforced separation. Essentially, she has been on her menstrual cycle for 12 years. That is 4,383 days. 144 months. 624 weeks. 105,192 hours. For most women, the menses time is an uncomfortable inconvenience that they endure. But the woman in our story is far more than uncomfortable. She is more than inconvenienced, and she is much more than even tired. For 12 years, she has been considered unclean and may not be touched by any clean person. She cannot go into the assemblies. She may not enter the synagogues. She may not be part of the ceremonies. It has been 12 years since she enjoyed Passover or Sabbath services. It has been 12 years since she has been able to stand before the high priest to have sins forgiven on Yom Kippur. For 12 years, she has borne the emotional and psychological baggage of being unclean and untouchable. For her, there are no hugs, no kisses. There is no form of intimacy with a husband if she still has one. She may not prepare her family's food, even if she still has a family near her. She may not touch household utensils. She cannot be a wife. She cannot be a mother. She has been isolated for 12 years. 12 years is a long, long time. To all intents and purposes, she is as good as dead. And this she has in common with Jairus' daughter, a 12-year-old girl lying on her deathbed. But she is a desperate woman. She has tried everything she can think of to deal with her heartache and her physical difficulty. Luke tells us that she has spent all her living on physicians, but no one can help her. And in this, incidentally, he is much kinder to physicians than Mark is. Mark goes as far as saying, really, they took her money knowing they couldn't help her. Perhaps Luke, being a doctor, is more sympathetic with the profession. But all of that backstory is present as she makes her way through the crowd. She shouldn't be there. In fact, if people knew that she were, she could be put to death for willingly making others unclean. But she has an opportunity for life, and how can she walk away from that? How can she step away from perhaps the one, the last, the only thing that can give her back a life? Everyone she touches becomes unclean, and in deference to them she should stay away, or at least, as the lepers would have to do, ring a bell and say, unclean, unclean, unclean. But here she is, jostled in the crowd as she tries to make her way to Jesus. and reaching out is able only to touch the fringe of his garment. Her belief is not in the ability of the fabric as much as it is in the power of Jesus. She has this sense that if she can just touch Jesus in some way, then her uncleanness will be gone. Make no mistake, her life situation is more than just the issue of blood. It has become about isolation, separation, not only from other human beings, but this deep and pervading sense that she is also separated from God. And so when Jesus calls her out and he makes a bit of a scene, he is not trying to embarrass her. He is rather trying to make her restoration public. She will not have to leave that place that day trying to convince anyone that she has been healed. Jesus declares it. She is restored in that moment to public and private life, but she is also restored to a full life with God. You could say that Jesus gave her back her life that day. And not long after the saving on the road, he gives life to the 12-year-old daughter of Jairus in her home. And as he speaks to both of them, Jesus addresses them in similar ways. To Jairus' daughter, he says, "Talita cum," little child, or even little lamb. I call you. And to the woman, he uses a phrase given to us only once in Scripture. He calls her daughter. It's gentle, tender, endearing, compassionate. In this little section of Luke 8, 2 lives are restored. 2 women whose names we do not know are given back a life they could not have had if it were not for Jesus that day. And as we let that sink in, we must be ever thankful that Jesus is able to get around the crowds. That unexpectedly, from within those crowds, an example of determined, even desperate faith can suddenly shine. In times past and in times present, we, the interested crowd, keen to be where Jesus is present and working, at times unwittingly become a barrier, an obstacle, the reason that some struggle to find their way to Jesus. Among those people are women. Women like Jairus' daughter and the lady with the issue of blood. Sometimes we have done it in ignorance. Sometimes we have done it in arrogance. And sometimes we have done it because we believed that we were only doing what God himself would do. Perhaps you are someone who struggles against the crowd, whose voice is barely audible in the press around Jesus, who even in your reaching out is able only to touch the fringe of his garment. Know that it is enough. Perhaps you are struggling to make your way in, wondering if you will make it in time. He sees you. He knows your struggle and he is moving toward you. Perhaps you are in the press of the crowd, enjoying being around Jesus and soaking up his presence. Understand your privilege and use it to help others find their own space in his presence. As we journey with Jesus, we discover what shouldn't be unexpected but often is to us, that Jesus doesn't always see things the same way we do. that he is able to step outside of our norms and our constructs and find a way around our barriers in order to restore us and move us toward wholeness and to save us. Here is the wonderful truth lived out in this story. Jesus, the Holy One, the clean one, the pure one, is not made unclean by our touch. He is not defiled or contaminated by our contact as we reach out to him, perhaps even as we brush the fringe of his garment. It is not he who becomes sullied, it is we who become clean. The slightest touch has the potential to radically change a life. Our struggles might be personal. They might even be intimate. They might be messy. And they might have been with us for 12 years. Our struggles might separate us from others. They might interfere with our relationships. They might isolate us. They might be embarrassing. And they may even shame us. Like the woman in the story, we may not wish to go public with them. That is the reality of sin. It does all of it to us and more, but the worst is that it tells us we have no value, that we are rubbish, that God is not interested in us, that there is no hope, that we have no hope. But there is, and he is. I don't know what you are struggling with, and most likely I don't need to know. Perhaps you find yourself on the edges of community, or even on the fringe of faith. Perhaps you are reaching out to him even now. Be encouraged. He is still God of the fringes.
I can see it in their eyes. Empty people fill the gaps, and in who knows where. On they go through private pain, living fear to fear. Laughter hides their silent cries. Only Jesus hears. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. At the end of broken dreams is the open door. People need the Lord. People need the Lord. When will we realize
May the God of peace and grace and truth be your guide as you begin each day. May he go ahead of you and prepare the way. May he come behind you and protect you. May he surround you and make you aware of his presence.